Hello everyone, this is Niladri once again. We will be talking about understanding Kanban. So on our previous video we actually already talked about what exactly the Kanban method is and how we'll be working on that. So this particular episode we are focusing on how you can configure the Kanban board in TFS. So before you start that, if you are new into Kanban, I will suggest you to go into YouTube and watch the video that I have explained on understanding the Kanban basics and few areas. So yeah, this is the YouTube. You can just search typing on Agile Digest and you will be able to find this video here, understanding Kanban on Agile framework. So just open it and you can play it over there. Yeah, I'm just
already talked about Scrum. So this is another methodology, and
yeah,
this is
so this is the Kanban video. You can actually look into different areas, understanding on how we can actually configure the Kanban board. If you scroll little somewhere around 16 minutes, this video is totally of close to 45 minutes, and I have explained different areas on how we'll be configuring different board and what are the different benefits you have. And also at the end I have talked about the different metrics. So that's covers overall Kanban on the basic fundamentals. For today we'll be talking about creating the board portion only in TFS, and also there is one more area. If you want to just read through, you can go to this link agiledigest.com, where I have written the entire fundamental of Kanban and how we will be able to work on what's the basics, the real life of Kanban, the board view, how we will be making the board and what's the flow is, and the benefits of it, Scrum versus Kanban, what's the difference between Scrum and Kanban, and the metrics that you can use. All the videos are also over here. You can go into this particular link and see all the videos under particular link. If you just want to look into the board area, you can click on that hyperlink, and here I have actually explained the different aspect of the board. You can actually go through over there. So let's jump to the Kanban board for TFS. So what we'll be covering it today is, so today we'll be covering creating a project on TFS, and then we'll be creating a Kanban board, and we'll see what are the different columns that we can create, and then within that columns we'll make a work in progress limit, and then we'll define some policies or exit criteria. So what exactly these exit criteria policies are, you can watch another video where you can actually find out what that video is and what that exit criteria is. Then we'll also talk about mentioning a priority lane, how we'll be creating a priority lane, and if you actually implement the other strategical lanes, then you can actually I will show you how you can make the different strategy of intangible stories or priority stories or anything that is related to your production support, high priority issues, or the normal stories, how you will be handling them and managing them in your Kanban board. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, this is a TFS. So now in this TFS we'll be first create one project. So here I already have created one project. I'll show you how you can create one new project. So I am going to the area where you can actually create new project, and I will be working on the project that I already have created. and this is the area you can actually click on new project and configure it, and it will be appear here. This is the project I already have created. So if I click on that project, once your project is created, you can click that and come to this page, and then you can actually click on work on backlog. So once you actually have created a project, that backlog you will be getting it here. And as we'll not be working on any scrum way, we'll not be looking into this what sprints over here, so we'll be only looking into the backlog. So TFS provides the backlogs board view as a Kanban view. So the backlog, you can actually see the backlog of all these stories is listed down here, but if you click on the board section, you will see the Kanban board. Now this is a default kind of Kanban board setting. We'll configure it based on our need. So how we'll be able to configure it? Let's see. We'll be going to the settings area, and this is another section on the setting area that's for the boards. So I'm saying the first column I want is new oblique to do. The second options I want to have analysis. Then third option I can say development. Then I can have another column called testing, and then I will be adding one more column here where I will be saying after testing I can say this one should go at the end. Okay, so this testing, okay, this is the last column, so we'll have to keep it as done. This testing I will be at before done I can have a testing, and then I can create one more column for say UAT, and I will be moving that UAT after testing. So we have these many columns. So let's see how does that board looks like now. Okay, so the board we have already configured new or to do. I had created one story earlier, so we have that, and then we have analysis, development, testing, UAT, and done. So by default it gives an work in progress limit of 5. So if you actually needs to change it, you can again go there and click on the columns and say okay, for to do I don't need any work in progress, and done, this is the last column, it will not be having any work in progress. So UAT I will not be having any work in progress because many times the UAT is we treat it as beyond control columns. The stories you have completed and waiting at the business side, the client is working on some other priorities and you don't have actually really any control to make that finish. So testing definitely we can have based on your team size. I am defining it as, for an example, 3 is the work limit, and here I am keeping it as 5. So we have testing and development 5, and analysis I can again have 3 columns. So I think this analysis spelling was wrong, analysis, yeah. So now we can see that work in progress is for analysis it is 3, for development it is 5, and it's 0 by 3 is there is no stories in over there. So the limit is actually technically will not block you or stop you to put in that story, but it will highlight in red if there is any the number of stories is more than the work in progress limit. Now again we need to split these work in progress stories into 2 sections. One is doing, another is done. So how we'll be doing it? Again we'll be go to that area, and for we need that split only for analysis, split columns into doing and done. Then this one also split columns into doing and done, and this one also will be do that. Now I'll be saying save. So you can see this analysis and development column is having doing section and done section. So once you will move into this column, you can actually identify what is doing and what is already done. So whatever the stories in analysis done is the backlog for development. Whatever the stories in development done is the backlog for testing, and in that way you can actually work out. Now the another changes we need to do before we make the another changes, you need to understand this limit is including of doing and done, and why we are the basic need of doing that. That's the one of the important principle of Kanban, that all the work in progress stories, if you limit that, that will help you on reducing the waste of development and make the developer, tester and the entire team to focus on the flow of the stories, so that you can actually able to understand how that enforce the flow if you watch the another video of understanding Kanban flow. Okay, so let's make the another changes that we were talking about, the priority lane. So sometimes what's happened, if there is, you already have limit of 3 in development and something high priority comes up, high priority tickets comes up, and you already have consumed all the limit. To work on that, we used to create a priority lane. So as of now there is no defined lanes, so we can actually create one lane that we can call as a priority lane or expedite lane. So I can have one priority lane. So this is your priority lane, and you can actually define a maximum number you will be allowing as a priority lane. So whatever your stories in priority lane, that is not counted as a part of your work in progress limits. So TFS doesn't support numbers that you can limit for that particular lane, but you can logically define somewhere that for your team you will be adding maximum 2 stories in a priority lane. So whatever the stories you can have, if you have 3 stories on this done section, you can have maximum another 2 stories on this done section, or this doing in this analysis section actually. So if you have 5 stories already in development in the normal lane, you can have max of another 2 stories, whatever the number you have defined, it's 2 or 3. So now what will happen is, let me create quickly 2 items more. So I am just giving story 2, I created 1 item, and I have created another item story 3, and for your example I will create one more story for story 4. So this is the story where you are actually creating, and this is the area where you are creating the stories for in backlog, and based upon your need you can actually move your stories whether in doing or done section. So now for an example, I am actually moving all these stories to analysis. So as of now it's saying see 3 by 3. Once I will move another story, it will be showing as red because you have exceeded the limit. Now once you will be moving it to done, it still remains same, and if you move it to again doing, now this is green and you can see this limit is showing 1 out of 5. Now some high priority story comes up, let's say a bug comes up, and that bug needs to be created as soon as possible, so you can move these stories to doing. Again it's showing is at red, but you know this is red because one story is in priority lane, so you will be not treating it this way. So TFS is actually doesn't counting that stories that's currently in priority lane for the work in progress limit. Okay, now there are other areas where you can create priority lanes to differentiate the categories of story. So there are 4 different categories of request or stories that you can work on based on their nature. So one, priority lane, anything that's on high priority that you have. You can also create another category of story that we call intangible. Any kind of stories, those are actually maintenance related, not giving an immediate benefit or value addition to the customer, but that is required for future development or future performance issue. You can create that kind of category. So let's create one category that will be creating a swim lanes here. So we can say intangible, and then you will be able to see. So this is the below, this is the default one, this priority lane, and you have intangible, and we can create one more category that called time bound. So any stories that you are getting that have a fixed date that you need to complete, then you can create a time bound stories. And whenever you are making the strategy at the time of daily stand up, you can actually check what are the stories we have in time bound, and when we can actually so this is time bound. So at the time of making your strategy, you can actually decide when you will really like to work on the time bound stories based on their end date or the expected end date of that time bound story. So something you may got in to do, but that the fixed end date is after 1 month. So you will be planning it when you want to move into your that board. So these are the different stories you have. You can actually arrange this swim lanes and move the priority lane at the top, and you want default at the bottom, or time bound you can move at the bottom, and intangible default. So this, any whatever the preference you have, you can actually define your board that way. Now in TFS there are a few other settings also you can do to start working on. Number one is you can actually define that color of the cards. How do you want to see? So this is one area. Work items reorder when changing columns, and the backlog reflects the new order. So this is you can actually, once you will be doing it, you will be able to understand what they are saying based on their priority where they will be going. And work items follows the backlog order. So it's actually giving you an options that whatever it was on the priority order in backlog, it will be showing in that order, or it will give you a flexibility to order within each board, because every day when you do a daily stand up to make a strategy, you actually see which story within the same columns is in high priority, that you move it to top. Okay, so now how do you will be working on task if you are actually working on one story that have 4 tasks working by 4 different persons. So you can actually create multiple tasks under that. So this one is not assigned to anyone. Let me assign it to any person. So let me assign it to me. So primarily this is assigned to me. This is a bug. We'll be working on that, and you can add task, you can add test cases along with that. So let me create one task for you. I created one task analysis, then I created one task development, and I have created one task for testing, for an example. So these are the 3 tasks I have, and you can actually open this and assign this task to particular person. So as of now, this is the area, it's not started. So you can actually assign this to any particular person that you are working with. You assign that, and you can save and close. So you know this task is assigned to someone. Once you are done with the analysis, you say analysis is done, and you are moving the stories here. So this will show like this. Now once there is a room in backlog, as of now there are plenty of room in development area. So not backlog, this is development area I'm talking about, because that's the next section or next column. So I have available here, some stories is available under analysis done. So I'll be moving this story to done, because I have bandwidth to work on that. Now again this is priority lane. Even we don't have that much of room, we can take an exception based on whatever you have defined. So that way you will be actually moving your stories from left to right, and once development will be done, you will be moving it to here and mark the task is done. That way you can actually do, and you can assign the task to someone, and once it is done, it is done. There is one more important area, or the principles you can say we need to define for each Kanban board. That's called the exit criteria. So whenever your story will be moving from doing to done within analysis or within development or within testing, there should be some exit criteria that in Kanban we call it as policies. You need to create a policies or define a policies for that. So if we talk about all the columns, there will be options for policies. New to do, it doesn't need any policies, but for analysis you need a policies. Okay, special statement column maps to, so we are not looking into that. So what is committed and approved, everything we are talking about committed. This is the definition of done. That's in Kanban way it's called policies. So I'll be creating few checklists like for analysis. So let me just add analysis report should be submitted, and so that's one of the exit criteria policies I have defined. For development I can create one more definitions for that. So I can say code review comment should have updated. Then I can say should have deployed in QA environment environment. Then I can say what else, code should have checked into respected branch. So that way you can actually define your board exit criteria. So once you will submit it, you will be able to see all those exit criteria in this. So here before moving to done, you can actually quickly click here and check what are the exit criteria for this development and what are the exit criteria for analysis. You can see that. So that way you can actually configure your Kanban board, and based on that you can continue running all your stories or all your Kanban work, if it is a intangible or high priority story, or if it is an a time bound story or any normal story that you are working on. So story, it can be a bug, you can create a task also, and that you can work with based upon your need. I think that's all for understanding how you can configure your Kanban board in TFS. And if you have any more questions or any more doubt, feel free to give us a comment. You can write back to us, and I will happy to help you or reply you responding our request. So till that time, thank you everyone. Thanks for watching this video. Thanks. Bye bye.